I am a 26-year-old woman from Delhi, India. A few years ago, I came to Canada to pursue my master's degree. Back home, my parents made most of my life decisions for me. Of course, in many Delhi families today, young people make their own choices, even in marriage, but in my family, tradition still held more weight than personal freedom. They decided what I studied, which relatives I could visit, even how I should dress when going outside. And of course, one day, they would choose who I was supposed to marry. Coming here was the first time I walked into a grocery store and realized no one would tell me which bread to buy. That tiny, silly moment felt like standing at the edge of a brand new ocean. I learned quickly that freedom is loud in small ways. It sounds like the click of a key when you lock your own door from the inside. It looks like a laundry bag you carry across a snowy street because no one else will do it for you. It tastes like coffee you buy with money you earned. Yes, my parents helped with tuition, but I picked up a few campus shifts and tutoring hours. And the first latte I bought with that money was almost painfully sweet. I kept the paper cup sleeve for weeks in the back of a drawer, like a child hiding a treasure. Every Sunday, my parents called. The calls always began with food. Are you eating? Then safety. Don't walk alone at night. Then studies. No parties, right? And finally, like a plane circling to land, when you finish, we will see about marriage. They used a calm tone, as if arranging marriage were as natural as renewing a passport. In our world, it is. For many Indian families, arranged marriage doesn't mean being forced to marry a stranger at first sight. It means families vet, introduce, and negotiate. Compatibility is measured in degrees and degrees: education, caste or community, income, family reputation, even the way the stars map across your birth. People fall in love after the wedding, or so we're told. If not love, then companionship. And if not companionship, then duty. In the beginning, I told myself, that is later. Right now, I will learn the bus routes and the language of supermarkets. I will survive winter and submit my assignments on time. I built routines that felt like ownership. I knew which librarian smiled back even on bad days, which cashier would call me Han without sounding fake. I found a small circle of friends, one from Korea, one from Brazil, a Canadian girl who swore too much and laughed like she invented the joke, and a few Indian students who knew where to find decent chai when nostalgia hit like sickness. With the Indian friends, we shared shortcuts and warnings and group rides to the temple during festivals, but we also shared one heavy thing we never named: the invisible gaze of our community. News travels quickly in small communities abroad. A rumor walks on 12 legs. Who is dating whom? Who moved in with a boyfriend? Who forgot herself in a foreign land? It all arrives back home faster than any flight. So even in Canada, I behaved as if my neighborhood aunties were watching from behind the maple trees. There is a kind of obedience that happens even when no one is there to enforce it. Still, I changed. Canada sharpened me, gave me angles. I learned to say no to group work that expected me to carry the whole project. I learned to email professors without apologizing for existing. I learned to sit in the front of the class and ask questions without whispering. I learned to walk alone, head up, keys in hand, pretending I wasn't afraid. It was during the second semester that I met him. Not the match. Not the man my parents would eventually choose. Someone else. We were in the same quantitative methods class. He arrived late most days, breathing through the cold, his hair thrown into order by his fingers. He sat 2 rows behind me and answered equations out loud, as if they were riddles he wanted to solve before anyone else. We started talking because he asked to borrow my notes, and I said yes because he smiled like a dare. Coffee turned into library sessions, the kind where you study a little and talk a lot. We argued about music. I told him Bollywood heartbreak songs are basically endurance tests. He told me my playlists sound like elevators. He teased me about my color-coded spreadsheets. I teased him about his chaotic desktop that looked like a drawer of socks poured onto a screen. He wasn't Indian. He didn't know my language or my mother's recipes or the shape of the expectations sitting on my shoulders. Maybe that was the point. I didn't want him to be a possibility. I wanted him to be a pause. Nothing dramatic happened. No kiss in the snow, no fainting at bus stops, no declarations under streetlights. We studied, we drank coffee, we sat on campus steps, and I laughed with the kind of relief that comes after holding your breath for years. I told myself this was safe because it was small and because I could end it. A door I could close, should I need to. Then the call came. My mother's voice was bright and careful, like she was holding something precious she did not want to drop. "We have found a very good boy," she said. "Good family, good job, respectful. We already spoke to an astrologer. It's an excellent match." My father got on to add practicalities. "He will call you next week. We can set up a meeting. We will plan engagement after your graduation, wedding in the winter. It is a good time." Their voices braided together into a net. I felt my ribs press against it. I said, "I'm not ready." I said, "Please." My mother said, "You are far from us. Our duty is to guide you." My father said, "This is about our family's honor." In English, honor is a tight word, already wrapped. In Hindi, the concept is bigger. Izzat is not just pride. It is a fabric that covers the family. A tear in one corner exposes everyone. People will talk, is the subtext. People will judge, is the fear. People will remember, is the nightmare. I told him. The boy in my class. I told him there was a match arranged, that my parents wanted me to meet him on video, that things were moving even if I felt stationary. He stared at the table, tracing a line with his finger along a chip in the wood. "So, what do you want?" he asked. It was the first time anyone had asked me that without adding, "That makes sense," or "That is practical." He didn't want an algorithm. He wanted an answer. I started, and the sentence felt like standing on thin ice. I wanted to finish my degree, take a job, learn myself without explanation, live alone, learn the sound of my own choices, laugh too loud, make mistakes that belong only to me. I wanted to call my mother from a place of confidence and tell her I was okay. I wanted a life that wasn't a constant apology. But I heard my father's voice in my head. "Who paid your fees?" I heard my mother's warning. "People are watching." I heard relatives I hadn't seen in 5 years. Girls who live abroad forget how to be daughters. He said, "You don't have to go back if you don't want to." It was a simple sentence like saying the sky is open. But the sky doesn't help if you are tied to the ground. "I do," I said. "You don't understand." He said, "Then help me understand." I tried. I explained arranged marriage the way you explain a house you grew up in. The walls are solid. You don't walk through them. You learn which door opens to the kitchen and which door opens to the backyard. I explained duty, gratitude, economics, how taking money from your parents for school is not a loan but a thread that pulls you back. I explained community, gossip, aunties with telescopes for eyes and megaphones for mouths. I explained that saying no in our culture is not just defiance but an earthquake that shifts the furniture in other people's homes. He looked at me for a long time. "I can't fix this," he said finally. "I know. But I don't want you to be alone in it." "I already am," I said. The man my parents chose called the following week. He was polite and efficient. He asked about my courses, my plans. Within minutes, he was checking boxes in the air. Family background, career trajectory, visa timelines. He asked if I would be comfortable living with his parents. He said, "In our household, we prefer simple values." He meant not arguments about tradition. He meant adjust, be agreeable, Be a daughter-in-law like the ones in television dramas who cook while wearing jewelry heavy enough to anchor a boat. He smiled when I said I like my work. He said, "Of course you can work, but after marriage, we make decisions together." He meant, I will make decisions. You will agree, and that will be called together. After the call, my mother texted me a photo of a gold necklace she liked for me. My father sent me a spreadsheet with tentative dates. I sat on my bed in Canada, snow pushing against the window, and felt like a doll being dressed for a show in a city across the world. I stopped meeting the boy from my class. I told him I needed to focus. He said, "Okay," in the tone people use when they accept a story they don't believe. I blocked his number after a week because I didn't trust myself not to answer if he called. There are choices you make not because you want to, but because wanting is a luxury. I buried that small, almost relationship like you bury a note you wrote to yourself and never intend to read again. I still passed him sometimes on campus. We learned the choreography of pretending not to see each other. Graduation arrived. Robes, photos, the smell of flowers that wilt after ceremony. My Canadian friend hugged me and said, "I hope you stay." I said, "I can't." She asked why. I opened my mouth and 1,000 years of reasons flooded in. I closed it and said, "Family." Her eyes softened the way people's eyes do when they look at a bruise they cannot ice. On the plane home, I watched a map show our flight arcing over the Atlantic. I pressed my forehead to the window until the cold glass taught me not to. I thought of the boy in my class, the way his laughter snapped like candy, the way he solved equations as if they were knots he could loosen with his hands. I thought of the man on the video call, the deliberate politeness that felt like furniture polish, everything shiny, nothing warm. I thought of my parents' hands, the lines of worry carved there by years of saving and planning. Love is a tether. Obligation is a knot. I was flying toward both. Delhi hit my skin like heat that had been waiting for me. The house smelled like cardamom and new clothes. Aunties arrived in bursts, draping their approval over the furniture, so fair, so slim, so obedient. At the salon, someone threaded my eyebrows with swift, stinging loops. At the jeweler's, gold lay in red velvet like small suns. At the tailor's, women called me baby, even though I was old enough to sign contracts and pay taxes. Everyone said, "You must be so excited." I smiled until my cheeks hurt. Excitement is a performance you do for other people's cameras. The engagement was a rehearsal for the wedding. The wedding was a festival. Lights climbed the walls. Music jumped from the speakers into our bones. My lehenga weighed as much as a child. People I barely knew pressed sweets to my lips. I posed with relatives I couldn't name. I bowed to elders who smelled like mothballs and oil, who blessed me in voices thinned by age. The priest's mantras rose and fell. We circled the sacred fire. He tied a thread. Someone tied my thoughts into a knot. My husband, stood beside me in a perfectly fitted sherwani, smiling the smile of a victorious, decent man. He is not cruel. That is almost the cruelty. It would be simpler if he were obviously terrible. He is a good son, a diligent professional, a person who will never understand what I lost because to him it is something no one ever had. His world has strong floors. Mine had found, briefly, a window. After the ceremony, after the photos, after the dance that felt like moving in a storm with weights attached, I sat alone in the bridal room while women rearranged the universe outside. The mirror held a version of me I had never seen, jewel-heavy, glittering, exhausted. I touched my cheek and left a fingerprint in the powder. I thought of the library, the chipped table, the line his finger traced, the question he asked, "What do you want?" In that room, the answer I had swallowed finally pressed against my teeth. Not this. Not like this. I wanted time. I wanted a door that led back to the life where decisions were not announcements but conversations. But wanting is not a language we were taught to speak fluently. People say arranged marriages work because everyone adjusts to the shape of the container. We are poured like water into vessels carved by older hands, and over time we believe that is our natural shape. Maybe that will happen to me. Maybe I will soften and fill the corners, learn to wake up early to cook, laugh at jokes I have already heard, develop affection the way you develop a taste for bitter vegetables, by eating them often enough that your tongue stops fighting. Maybe I will be a good wife. I am trying. This is not a story about bravery. It is not a story about running away with a man I loved. I did not stage a protest. I did not write an angry letter. I did not win. It is a story about gravity, about the weight of parent sacrifices, about the heavy, invisible threads of reputation and fear and tradition woven into a net you cannot see until you try to swim away. It is about choosing not to drown in that net by lying still inside it. Sometimes in the morning when I tie my hair and put on the mild lipstick that my mother says looks presentable, I think of snow pressed against a window. I think of the first latte I bought with my own money, the way it burned my tongue because I was impatient. I think of the boy who asked a question I still answer in the dark. Then I fold those thoughts like laundry and put them on a shelf where no one will touch them. If you are listening from far away, in a country where parents do not pick spouses and aunties do not watch from behind curtains, you might wonder why I didn't fight harder. Sometimes I wonder too. But the truth is, in my world, saying no is not only refusing a person. It is refusing an architecture, money that carried you, expectations that introduced you, love that fed you. And it is not a single no. It is 100 no's every week, to relatives, to neighbors, to friends who think they are saving you, to parents whose voices tremble because they believe they are losing you to a culture they do not trust. It is a life's work to build a self that can survive so much refusal. I was not ready for that work. Maybe one day I could have been. But the train arrived and everyone pushed, and I stepped on because the platform was crowded with people I loved. People danced at my wedding. The photographs look beautiful. If you see them, you will say, I look happy. The camera is a loyal liar. It tells the story that keeps families together. This is not a cautionary tale. I am not telling you to refuse your parents or abandon your culture. I am telling you that sometimes the life you live is not the only life you could have lived, and the grief for that other life is quiet and private and constant, like a low-grade fever you learn to work through. You cook with it, you laugh with it, you attend festivals with it, you buy groceries with it. It doesn't kill you. It just makes everything a little heavier. The boy from my class will finish his degree, get a job, find someone who laughs at his messy desktop, and I wish him well in a language he will never hear. The man I married will plan finances and family vacations with me. He will ask for my opinion and then fold it into his. He will not be unkind. He will not understand. My mother will watch me across dinner tables, searching my face for proof that she did the right thing. My father will loosen his shoulders around relatives, confident that our family's story continues along the approved track. Maybe, years from now, a daughter will ask me why I married a man I barely knew. I will tell her what my mother told me. We did what was best for the family. It will be true, as far as it goes. I keep one thing for myself. Tucked into the back of a drawer is a faded paper cup sleeve from a Canadian cafe. It smells like nothing now. The ink is smudged. But sometimes when the house is quiet and the net is loose for a moment, I take it out and hold it in my hand. I remember the first sip, too hot and too sweet, and the way I blew on it, laughing, alone, independent, no one watching, no one deciding, no one calling my name from the next room. It was not love. It was not rebellion. It was just a small, ordinary freedom. For a while, it was enough to know that I had tasted it. Everyone celebrated my marriage. The music was loud, the lights were bright, the photos were perfect, and I smiled on cue. That is the story you can see. This, what I am telling you now, is the story you cannot.